Welcome to another episode of Untold Legends, where I take a deep dive into your favorite fictional stories. Last time in the Mortal Kombat series, I detailed the story of the most dangerous cyber Lin Kuei assassin, Triborg, a mechanical monstrosity combining the skills and personalities of multiple Lin Kuei warriors inside one artificial body. I covered his creation, his desire to destroy organic life across all the realms, all the way through his formation of the deadly Takunin clan of cyber warriors. This time around, I'll be covering one of the most popular characters from the Mortal Kombat list of combatants. Liu Kang's closest friend, distant relative, and Shaolin monk brother-in-arms, Kung Lao of the White Lotus Society. A character that, although very beloved among fans and important to the overall lore of Mortal Kombat, is oddly enough very underused for story purposes and keeps getting the short end of the stick. Across all forms of Mortal Kombat media, Kung Lao just can't seem to stay alive. He dies fighting Shao Kahn, then it turns out he faked his death and is actually alive, then he's actually killed in the literal hands of Shinnok, his neck has been broken by Shao Kahn, his soul has been eaten by Shang Tsung, leaving him as a drained husk, he's been ripped in half by Shao Kahn, the man cannot catch a break. Or, well, quite literally, he's been catching breaks, I guess. And to top things off, he spends most of the new timeline as an evil undead zombie warrior.
You simply were not ready, Kung Lao.
What does Liu Kang have that I don't?
That you ask answers your question.
Round one.
Aside from being killed off regularly, Kung Lao is also one of those combatants whose story has changed over the years, which isn't necessarily uncommon to the series, but it does result in what you may be able to call a couple of inconsistencies, including some confusion among fans as to what his family connections are. For example, the young Shaolin monk Kung Jin, introduced in Mortal Kombat X, is Kung Lao his cousin, or is Kung Lao his uncle? You may have heard it both ways. Well, in Mortal Kombat X, he's Kung Jin's cousin, and in Mortal Kombat 11, Kung Lao is retconned as Kung Jin's uncle, without explanation, which means he's got a brother or sister somewhere that we don't know about.
There he would have remained but for the aid of his cousin Kung Jin.
Your nephew aided us against Shinnok.
Kung Jin honors our family, Sub-Zero.
I prefer him to you.
Round one, fight!
Second thing we're going to clear up, Liu Kang, how's he related? This is a topic I always get pushback on from the Liu Kang and Kung Lao are not related crowd. Yes, Kung Lao and Liu Kang are both descended from the original Great Kung Lao. That means they do have a connection from the same bloodline if you go back far enough. Distant cousins, basically. If the visual storytelling clues weren't obvious enough with Liu Kang and the Great Kung Lao both wearing a red bandana and spiked arm gauntlets, clearly establishing that there's a connection between those two characters, Mortal Kombat 4 and Gold outright say it. If we look at Goro's bio, you can pause here and read the entire thing if you want to, but I quote, "Goro took the Mortal Kombat title from the original Kung Lao, only to have it won from him 9 generations later by Lao's ancestor Liu Kang." By the way, that's a known error there, it should be Descendant, not Ancestor. Other way around. But enough about Liu Kang, back to Kung Lao. Another inconsistency has been Kung Lao himself, his identity and his personality.
Master Li Bing saw your potential.
Is that why he made life hell?
That was because you are lazy.
Round one.
Is he the descendant of the Great Kung Lao? Or is he the Great Kung Lao reborn? It depends on which game you play. In Mortal Kombat 3 and Trilogy, in the classic timeline, after his supposed death, he goes to the afterlife and meets the Great Kung Lao. But in Mortal Kombat 9's Kung Lao ending, Raiden believes he's Kung Lao reborn, and in Mortal Kombat 11, Great Kung Lao's spirit floats around him, like a ghost. So pick which one you prefer. Either way, this topic isn't really mentioned within the actual main storyline of the games ever, only in pre-fight dialogue between the characters in that one ending. And the final inconsistency is Kung Lao's personality. In the early days of the series, he was depicted more as a peace-loving Shaolin monk that fought only if he had to, and was more than willing to let Liu Kang take the spotlight as Grand Champion of Mortal Kombat. Then with the release of the excellent third-person co-op beat-em-up Shaolin monks, Kung Lao was represented as a cockier warrior, a bit more more of a show-off that had a friendly rivalry with Liu Kang, and constantly trying to prove that he was the best. Something that clashed with the established storyline at the time, but it still lasts to this day with the more recent representations of the character.
Whoever came here knew how to disarm these traps.
Do you know how? The monks never taught me.
More likely, you did not attend class.
Easy enough. What's next?
But how was Kung Lao created for the series? Why have another Shaolin monk hero character when we already had Liu Kang as Grand Champion? Overall, Kung Lao's development was fairly straightforward. He was influenced by pop culture and movies. After the original Mortal Kombat game, plans for a sequel were moving along quickly. There were multiple ninja-style characters in the roster, there were multiple masked ninja females, with Mileena, Katana, Jade, but Liu Kang was the sole Shaolin monk. The development team wanted to add another monk-style character to fight alongside Liu Kang, but he needed to have his own distinct look and fighting style. Instead of Liu Kang's shirtless appearance with pants, headband, and arm gauntlets, Kung Lao was designed dressed in a full uniform, with a bright red symbol on the front. And although its deeper meanings are debatable, according to co-creator John Tobias, the symbol was the Chinese character for war. The one piece of clothing that Kung Lao wears that makes him one of the most recognizable characters in the series is his iconic hat, both fashionable and deadly, with razor-sharp edges that can cut through enemies like butter. The hat was actually inspired by 007 villain Oddjob from the movie Goldfinger, equipped with his own deadly hat. If you aren't as familiar with 007 villains, he was the really short character from GoldenEye 64 multiplayer that the asshole among your friends would always choose because he was hard to hit. And so Kung Lao was born, introduced for the first time in the amazing sequel to Mortal Kombat, creatively titled Mortal Kombat 2. He was portrayed by skilled martial artist Anthony Marquez in both Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat 3, and in a funny twist of fate, he actually slightly resembles a real-life Liu Kang now. From his introduction in Mortal Kombat 2, Kung Lao continued on through many entries in the series, and outside the series. The original live-action movie and its sequel Annihilation, though, completely disregard Kung Lao. The animated series Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm didn't include him either, but Kung Lao wasn't completely thrown aside. His ancestor, the Great Kung Lao, had an entire show built around his story, called Mortal Kombat Conquest. It was a little weird, mostly hit or miss, acted almost as a prequel for the live-action movie, but overall it was a pretty decent show. It was a good attempt. The more modern Kung Lao we know today didn't really have an official live-action appearance until the Mortal Kombat Legacy web series, where he was represented as a peaceful monk trying to get Liu Kang to embrace his destiny, and of course the newer live-action movie borrows the younger, cockier version of Kung Lao, or as Kano calls him.
Top knot. The end. What's his name? Kung Pao. Pass us a fucking egg roll, would you?
He also appeared in several 90s Malibu Mortal Kombat comics, and even landed his own one-shot issue with a story called Rising Sun. A very non-canon story. With some weird differences from what we know today, Kung Lao was exiled to Outworld and deemed a failure. It's implied that he had a thing with Katana going on, and he fought Shang Tsung in the guise of the Great Kung Lao. Fun read, but these stories don't really apply to today's Mortal Kombat lore. And it seems many people in the game development industry are fans of Kung Lao as well. You can find homages to the character in multiple places. In Saints Row 4, Super Homie Pierce dresses up as what cannot be described as anything other than a very Kung Lao-like figure. Not to mention the fighting game Dive Kick, they've got a character called Kung Pao, who's a cross between Katana and Kung Lao. Although his story's been all over the place and he does die every 2 seconds, Kung Lao has left a lasting legacy on the series. But what's his overall story? What role does Kung Lao play as an Earthrealm defender, and where does his future lie? Well, you can't really detail Kung Lao's story without fleshing out his ancestor, Kung Lao, referred to as the Great Kung Lao. His story began about 500 years before the original Mortal Kombat. At the time, Outworld had won 9 straight victories in Mortal Kombat through 9 generations. The current champion was Shang Tsung, an evil sorcerer that betrayed Earthrealm for Outworld. One more victory meant that Outworld Emperor Shao Kahn would be allowed to merge Earthrealm with Outworld, as he had done with so many other realms before. Hope was found in Earthrealm's Order of Light, an order of Shaolin monks that resided in China. They welcomed members from all over the world and practiced traditions of peace and honor. But they recognized the danger of leaving Earthrealm unprotected from intrusion by other realms, and they created an elite fighting school known as the Wuxi Academy. The Order of Light used its own martial arts masters as instructors, but welcomed masters from other realms, such as the legendary Bo Raicho of Outworld. When the time came for the 10th Earthrealm Mortal Kombat tournament, the Order of Light chose a warrior to represent them in combat. His name was Kung Lao. Kung Lao was raised by the Order of Light and trained among its best instructors, becoming their greatest fighter. Once combat began, Kung Lao easily bested Outworld's combatants and challenged their grand champion Shang Tsung. He battered Shang Tsung, leaving him badly injured and broken on the floor. Traditionally, the loser of Mortal Kombat would be finished, but Kung Lao took mercy on him and allowed him to live with the shame of losing. Earthrealm won the tournament and broke Outworld's winning streak. It was safe for another generation. Kung Lao became legend among his people and became known as the Great Kung Lao. And winning Mortal Kombat imbued him with slow aging and a long life, so he can continue to participate in upcoming tournaments. 50 years later, Shao Kahn challenged Earthrealm to Mortal Kombat again, and appointed Shang Tsung to oversee the tournament on behalf of Outworld. This time Outworld chose a new champion in the form of Prince Goro of the Shokan race. The Great Kung Lao made his way through the tournament again, but tragically fell when faced with the tremendous strength of Prince Goro. As he lay dying and defeated, Shang Tsung claimed the soul of the Great Kung Lao. He had absorbed thousands of souls in his life, but this one was his most satisfying. After the Great Kung Lao's death, the Thunder God Raiden and the Order of Light founded the White Lotus Society, high in the mountains to the east. The most skilled warriors from the Wuxi Academy were chosen to join the White Lotus Society, and specially trained to specifically defend Earthrealm in Mortal Kombat. But none could topple Outworld's champion. After Kung Lao's era, Outworld won another 8 tournaments over the next 500 years, with Prince Goro as Grand Champion. The 10th Mortal Kombat after the Great Kung Lao's death approached. If Outworld had this 10th victory, Earthrealm would be lost. The Order of Light placed their hope in the last remaining direct descendant of the Great Kung Lao, a young Shaolin monk named after his ancestor. Although this present-day Kung Lao was well aware of his ancestry, and he was well trained throughout his life by the greatest martial arts masters, he had no interest in participating in the Mortal Kombat tournament. Kung Lao simply wanted a life of peace, and was aware that the winner would be cursed with a long lifespan, bound to the responsibility of defending Earthrealm for hundreds of years. Instead of Kung Lao, his close friend and fellow Shaolin monk Liu Kang was chosen for the role, and he successfully won the 10th Mortal Kombat tournament.
Sonic sub score Luke Raiden Kano Johnny Sonic sub score Luke Raiden.
Shang Tsung was brought before Shao Kahn to be executed for his failure, but the manipulative sorcerer had an idea. They could draw Earthrealm warriors into Outworld, where Kahn would have the advantage, and proposed a final tournament. If he lost this 11th tournament, he would forgo his claim over Earthrealm forever. Back in Earthrealm while Liu Kang was away, Outworld Tarkatan forces were sent in to attack and destroy the Wuxi Academy. In an attempt to get Raiden's attention, Liu Kang discovered the remains of the Shaolin Temple when he returned, and Kung Lao appeared alive and well. Kung Lao partially blamed Liu Kang for what happened, a direct cause of his victory in Mortal Kombat. But who's to blame was less important than retribution. Outworld would pay for what they did to the Shaolin, and this time Kung Lao wouldn't stay on the sidelines. Kung Lao and Liu Kang traveled to find the other combatants and discovered Shang Tsung's forces attacking Jax. Kung Lao stepped in and sliced Kintaro with his hat to stop the fighting. With the combined might of Jax, Liu Kang, and Kung Lao, Kintaro had a difficult challenge to face. But the situation would be resolved in Mortal Kombat. Raiden appeared and accepted the terms of the Outworld tournament. It was Earthrealm's best chance of getting rid of Shao Kahn forever. Kung Lao traveled to Outworld with his Earthrealm allies and battled his way through the ranks.
Feel the power. No.
In his non-canon Mortal Kombat 2 ending, he challenged Shao Kahn in combat and defeated the Emperor. The Shaolin monks that Outworld destroyed and his ancestor, the original Kung Lao, were avenged. With his spirit and strength in complete alignment, he looked ahead to the challenges the future held. In the canon version of events, Kung Lao did help Earthrealm during the tournament, but he never faced Shao Kahn. Instead, Liu Kang declared victory in Mortal Kombat once again. Together, they returned to Earthrealm and began training a new generation of Shaolin monks, with Kung Lao in charge of reforming the White Lotus Society. But time would prove short. Shao Kahn had no intention of keeping his word, and he launched a direct invasion of Earthrealm with his armies. If he couldn't earn his victory through Mortal Kombat, Earthrealm would bow to him by force. Shao Kahn invaded with a massive army and absorbed the souls of humanity within himself, increasing his already amazing power to unimaginable levels. If his reign continued, the realms would begin to merge against the rules of Mortal Kombat. Earthrealm's combatants, they were humanity's final hope, Kung Lao among them. His plans to rebuild the White Lotus Society had to be placed on hold, and he fought valiantly against Shao Kahn's warriors next to Liu Kang, until he faced Shao Kahn. In his non-canon Mortal Kombat 3 and Trilogy ending, Kung Lao defeated the Emperor, but at a cost. While fighting Kahn, he suffered extreme injuries and died shortly after winning, and his soul ascended into the heavens to be with his great ancestor. In the canon version of events, Kung Lao's ending is partially canon. He did face Shao Kahn in combat, but didn't succeed. Shao Kahn won the battle, and Kung Lao was believed to have been killed, while an enraged Liu Kang defeated the Emperor and sent him back into Outworld beaten and broken, more powerless than ever. After the invasion, Earthrealm was restored, and the remaining Outworld forces retreated. While most of Earthrealm's heroes mourned the loss of Kung Lao, few knew the truth. Kung Lao survived the battle with Shao Kahn and recovered from his wounds. He kept his survival secret in an attempt to finally live the life of peace he sought, and continued searching for Shaolin recruits to rebuild the White Lotus Society. While working on his goal, Kung Lao encountered a warrior named Shujinko that believed he was on a quest for the god Damashi, secretly Onaga the Dragon King seeking his own resurrection. Kung Lao believed Shujinko was an assassin sent to attack the Shaolin again, but Shujinko revealed that he was also a member of the White Lotus Society, and Kung Lao asked him for assistance seeking a lost student. A young Shaolin named Kai that was currently in Outworld was needed to help rebuild, a warrior that would eventually be trained by both Kung Lao and Liu Kang.
Yes, I am Kai, the White Lotus member you were seeking. I have finished my journeys in Earthrealm, and have just begun to wander Outworld. I will return to Earthrealm when my travels here are done. Take this staff to Kung Lao. It once belonged to Raiden. It might help him to rebuild the White Lotus.
Soon after, during the events in Mortal Kombat Gold, the Elder God of Death Shinnok escaped his Netherrealm prison and assaulted the realms with his demon army. Although Shao Kahn in Outworld had been defeated, time proved that Kahn wasn't the only threat. Earthrealm's combatants were needed again, and Kung Lao would have stayed on the sidelines had he not heard that the Shokan Prince Goro allied himself with Shinnok. Once he received word of Goro's role, Kung Lao revealed his survival, and went after Goro in an effort to avenge his ancestor, the great Kung Lao.
Goro, we are here to offer the Shokan a treaty for truce. The Centaurs have already signed and agreed to all terms. We now await your acceptance.
War has been waged in this realm for too long. We must bring it to an end. I will set aside my differences with the Centaurs, as long as they abide by the treaty. I shall sign your agreement.
Goro, this is a great victory for all of us. Kung Lao, we are at a moment of peace. How could you attack now?
I once thought that an allegiance with an enemy was a lost cause, Princess Kitana.
Was that your attempt at an assassination, Earthman?
No, that was a ceremonial strike of revenge for my ancestor that you killed in Mortal Kombat so many years ago.
And do you wish to continue this battle?
No. I wish only to settle the differences between us.
Your ancestor was a great man and a brave and noble warrior. You should be proud of his accomplishments. If he won, perhaps it would be my own son seeking to settle differences with him.
Liu Kang is the warrior that defeated Shinnok. The long-standing feud between Goro and Kung Lao's bloodline was over, ending in peace. But this peace would be short-lived. During the events of Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, the evil sorcerers Quan Chi and Shang Tsung joined forces in order to resurrect Onaga the Dragon King's ancient immortal army. With his army under their command, they would ravage the realms together. But the grand champion of Mortal Kombat, Liu Kang, had to be dealt with. Shang Tsung infiltrated the Wuxi Academy disguised as Kung Lao in order to get close to Liu Kang and killed him. Ultimately, it was Kung Lao himself that discovered Liu Kang's body, and when Raiden revealed the details of his death, Kung Lao was furious. His closest friend was killed by a man using his image. From that moment on, Kung Lao abandoned his pacifist Shaolin monk beliefs and swore he would avenge Liu Kang and joined the rest of Earthrealm's heroes to hunt down and destroy the sorcerers in Outworld. After attempting to live a life of peace for so long, Kung Lao believed that he needed more training before leaving, and enlisted the help of the legendary Outworld martial arts teacher Bo Raicho. Bo Raicho trained Kung Lao, and many of the Shaolin monks Kung Lao gathered in Earthrealm. Then together they joined forces with the others in a final assault against Shang Tsung and Quan Chi. In his non-canon Deadly Alliance ending, Kung Lao defeated Shang Tsung without mercy and avenged Liu Kang.
Rage fueled Kung Lao's thirst for revenge. The memory of holding his fellow monk's broken body on the Lei Tai of the Wuxi Academy grounds consumed him as he rained blow after blow down upon Shang Tsung. Kung Lao had finally mastered the attack Bo Raicho had taught him. The sorcerer could not withstand his whirlwind assault. Shang Tsung begged for mercy. Kung Lao granted him none. Upon his return to Earthrealm, Kung Lao stood before the modest shrine to Liu Kang, which had been erected by the Wuxi initiates during his absence in Outworld. He lit a stick of incense and placed it among the others already burning there. He bowed his head and prayed for safe passage to the afterlife for his friend and brother. With Shang Tsung's death, Liu Kang's spirit could rest peacefully. Earthrealm was safe once more, but at a terrible cost. The work of the White Lotus Society had become more important than ever.
In the canon version of events, Kung Lao would find no such success. Kung Lao challenged Shang Tsung directly and was killed in combat, as were the rest of Earthrealm's combatants. Raiden stood alone against their might, but a much more dangerous foe had returned. Onaga the Dragon King himself was unintentionally revived by Shujinko, and he began his own assault on the realms. In a last-ditch effort to stop the Dragon King, Raiden, Shang Tsung, and Quan Chi joined forces, and Raiden unleashed an enormous blast of energy. Shang Tsung was killed in the blast, and the great Kung Lao's soul was finally freed from his body. But Onaga survived and revived Kung Lao and the others without their freedom intact. Using his great power, he turned them into mindless servants to do his bidding. For those reasons, Kung Lao didn't participate in the Mortal Kombat Deception battle against Onaga, but he was freed from Onaga's control when Ermac and Liu Kang's spirit joined forces to save them, and Onaga was defeated by Shujinko, the man that set him free to begin with. After the defeat of Onaga, Kung Lao partnered with the Wind God Fujin to go after Raiden and Liu Kang's body. Raiden had reformed into a dark version of himself that was quickly becoming as ruthless as Shao Kahn was, and he had resurrected Liu Kang's body without a soul. An empty vessel, the zombified Liu Kang was slaughtering various people and needed to be stopped. If neither could be stopped, Fujin and Kung Lao agreed they needed to be put down permanently. But a bigger crisis was around the corner in the form of Armageddon. Constant combat was affecting the fabric of reality, and all the realms were set to come undone. The only way to potentially stop Armageddon was to claim the power of the reality-altering elemental Blaze. Combatants from all realms chose their sides, and the Army of Light and Shinnok's Army of Darkness clashed in an epic battle for the fate of the universe. Kung Lao fought for the forces of light and was seen on the battlefield in one-on-one combat with the Tarkat and Baraka. In his non-canon Mortal Kombat Armageddon ending, Kung Lao defeated Blaze, then used his power to change history forever.
released by his victory over Blaze opened a portal, and Kung Lao found himself in Earthrealm hundreds of years in the past. His ancestor allowed him to enter the Mortal Kombat tournament in his stead. Kung Lao defeated Goro and won the tournament, becoming a legend. As a result, Liu Kang never competed, and Kung Lao's rivalry with him never came to be.
In the canon version of events, Kung Lao was successful in killing Baraka with his razor-sharp hat, but was killed by Shinnok, crushed by his powers. Shao Kahn defeated Blaze and claimed his power to alter reality however he deemed fit. Once again, Raiden stood alone and defeated. His only hope was to send a message to the past in the hope that his younger self would prevent Shao Kahn from coming into this power. Just before a deadly strike from Kahn's hammer, Raiden used the shattered remains of his amulet to send his message through time. Ripples of change echoed through reality and an altered timeline was created, reverting the history of Mortal Kombat back to an altered version of the 10th tournament, where Liu Kang participated. In this new version of history, Kung Lao was quite different. He was still a close friend of Liu Kang, as close as brothers, but instead of a peace-loving pacifist, he was an eager young warrior, overconfident in his own skills, and desperate to prove that he also had whatever made Liu Kang special. In this version of the tournament, Kung Lao wasn't chosen to participate, but he infiltrated the tournament in the guise of one of Shang Tsung's guards.
Combatants, the next match will now begin. Who among you is worthy of this challenge?
Where is the Lin Kuei, Sub-Zero? He killed my family and clan. I will have his head.
I know it is you, Kung Lao. The Shaolin monks chose Liu Kang to represent your order in this tournament.
I am Liu Kang's equal.
That remains to be seen.
Watch and see.
I accept the challenge.
Kung Lao.
Never mind the Lin Kuei. Now you face a Shaolin.
You will regret your impulsiveness. School wins. You are not yet a warrior.
Kung Lao!
Listen when your elders speak. You could not win this fight.
Kung Lao entered himself into the tournament and lost his first battle against Scorpion. He was skilled, but too headstrong and motivated by self-glory. He survived combat against Scorpion and watched from the sidelines while Liu Kang battled through the ranks until the final confrontation against Shang Tsung. As in the original timeline, Liu Kang won the tournament and saved Earthrealm, and Shang Tsung still proposed another tournament. To convince Raiden to accept the terms of the second tournament, Shao Kahn sent Shang Tsung with an army of Tarkatans to attack the celebrations at the Wuxi Academy. Raiden accepted the terms of the tournament, but during the assault, most of the Shaolin monks were captured or killed. Before the tournament began, Kung Lao traveled into Outworld with Raiden and Liu Kang to rescue the others.
It is as Master Boraicho said. The Shaolin masters are aboard that ship.
Boraicho said 2 ships.
The other has disembarked. We need to determine its destination.
They will talk. I will see to it.
No extraordinary means, Kung Lao.
They raided the Wuxi Academy, killed Master Wen.
Even with Tarkatans, there are boundaries we do not cross.
Yes, Lord Raiden.
I still cannot believe Shao Kahn would order such a brazen attack.
It demonstrated Earthrealm's vulnerability. Shao Kahn knew we would have no choice but to agree to a new tournament.
Liu Kang defeated Shang Tsung. He will beat Shao Kahn.
In good time, Kung Lao. First we free the Shaolin.
Liu Kang and Kung Lao fought side by side against the Tarkatan threat and successfully rescued the missing Shaolin monks before returning to participate in the tournament. While investigating Outworld, the combatants learned that Kitana had been taken captive when she learned the truth about her heritage. While others fought in their place, Liu Kang and Kung Lao snuck behind enemy lines to rescue Kitana from her well-guarded prison, and Kung Lao would get a chance to prove his worth against his ancestor's killer.
I hope your girlfriend is worth Lord Raiden's anger, Liu Kang.
Notice that I am ignoring you.
They must have relocated Kitana.
We have indeed. We knew someone would come for her.
May you join her in death.
Kung Lao wins.
Be thankful I choose not to spill your tainted blood. Who are you? There is something familiar. Do you need help? 4 arms against 2 is hardly a fair fight.
Liu Kang?
You have had your match against Liu Kang. Now you will face me! Now if you have any honor left, you will tell us where Katana is.
She has been taken to the Colosseum, where she has no doubt been executed.
You lie! She may yet live. Let us go.
As the tournament reached closer to the end, Raiden's visions of the future were still unclear. The message from the future simply read, he must win, but Raiden was unsure who he referred to. In the original history, Liu Kang defeated Shao Kahn and saved Earthrealm. Perhaps Raiden made the wrong choice and it was Kung Lao who was destined to win. In his non-canon Mortal Kombat 9 ending, Kung Lao defeated Shao Kahn and learned about his possible secret connection to his ancestor.
Kung Lao had avenged his ancestor's death and saved Earthrealm from Shao Kahn's brutality. In quiet reflection with Raiden at the grave of the great Kung Lao, he touched the modest stone marker. Images of past events, moments of someone else's life, flashed through his mind, concluding with a lost battle against Goro. Raiden theorized that Kung Lao had unlocked memories of his past life. The Kung Lao that stood before Raiden was in fact the reincarnation of the great Kung Lao, who had been defeated by Goro 500 years ago. He had accomplished in the present what he could not in the past.
In the canon version of events, Kung Lao successfully fought the deadly alliance of Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, and Kintaro before his opportunity to confront the Emperor.
Perhaps you are meant to be the victor.
You will face Shang Tsung and Quan Chi.
No Earthrealm war can stop this deadly alliance.
On that, we agree.
It is done!
No, Kung Lao. Not nearly so.
I will eat your heart.
Kung Lao wins.
You see, Raiden? Earthrealm is free!
Kung Lao, no! I will strip the flesh from your bones!
Choosing Kung Lao to fight Shao Kahn was a mistake that Raiden would live with forever. Kung Lao was dead due to his decisions, and Liu Kang struck Shao Kahn down in a rage. The path to Armageddon remained unaltered, with the addition of Kung Lao's death. This time, Kung Lao didn't participate in the defense of Earthrealm when Shao Kahn launched his invasion, but Kung Lao's story was far from over. A resurrected and powered-up Sindel killed most of Raiden's chosen warriors, and a desperate Raiden sought an alliance with the Netherrealm to stop Shao Kahn, and he discovered a terrible truth.
What do you offer?
I offer the souls of Earthrealm warriors who die in this conflict. I offer my own soul as well. If I die, you will have it.
How noble, Raiden. Yet utterly pointless.
No!
You see? Their souls are already mine. Shao Kahn's payment for Netherrealm's allegiance.
No.
Kung Lao and the rest of the deceased combatants were resurrected and enslaved by Quan Chi's dark power to be loyal to the Netherrealm and the Elder God of Death, Shinnok. Any shred of their previous lives were gone, now simply existing as undead servants. For now, Raiden could do nothing to save Kung Lao and the others, but he finally realized what he meant by he must win. Shao Kahn could invade Earthrealm without punishment, but if he were to begin merging Earthrealm with Outworld, at that point the Elder Gods could step in and enforce the rules of Mortal Kombat. Raiden allowed Shao Kahn to step through and begin merging the realms, at the cost of Liu Kang's life. In the end, Shao Kahn faced the wrath of the Elder Gods for breaking their rules, and Earthrealm was saved, exactly as Quan Chi and Shinnok had manipulated. Once Shao Kahn was out of the way, Shinnok launched his attack on the realms as he did during the events of Mortal Kombat 4 in Gold, and initially failed. He was locked away inside his own amulet. During the events of Mortal Kombat X, years later, the undead Kung Lao Revenant fought in defense of Quan Chi when the restored Jax and the Special Forces tracked him down in the Netherrealm.
Now!
Do not interfere, Jackson Briggs. Go back into hiding.
Hiding? Guess I have been.
What you got, punk?
That knocked some of my rust off.
The Revenant Kung Lao failed to stop Quan Chi from being captured by Jax and ultimately executed by Hanzo Hasashi. After Quan Chi's death, Shinnok was freed from his amulet prison and set out on a mission to absorb and corrupt Earthrealm's life force, the Jinsei. Kung Lao and the other Revenants confronted Raiden and held him back so their master could accomplish his goals.
Kung Lao, desist!
I serve Shinnok and the Netherrealm.
Because Shao Kahn murdered you.
Something you allowed to happen. I will not be so passive in your demise.
You deserved a better fate.
In his non-canon Mortal Kombat X ending, Kung Lao regained his humanity, defeated Shinnok, and wandered the Netherrealm looking for a new purpose with the help of Kung Jin.
After Shinnok's defeat, Kung Lao found himself trapped in the Netherrealm, his soul corrupted by Quan Chi's dark magic. There he would have remained but for the aid of his cousin Kung Jin. Together, their Shaolin strength repelled the evil sufficiently enough for Kung Lao to escape that dark realm and control his inner demons. Compromised but not lost, Kung Lao now exists as an agent of vengeance. He will show evil no mercy.
In the canon version of events, Kung Lao never regained his humanity, and Kung Jin and his Special Forces teammates assaulted Shinnok's new lair, and Kung Jin was horrified to see Kung Lao in his current state. Cassie Cage defeated Shinnok and ended the threat to all the realms, while Kung Lao returned to the Netherrealm. With Shinnok gone, Kung Lao's new master became the Revenant Liu Kang. During the events of Mortal Kombat 11, Raiden gave in to a darker persona, as in the original timeline, and tortured Shinnok before removing his head. In response, Shinnok's mother, the Titan Kronika, responsible for the flow of time, decided to wipe out history and create a new perfect era of her own creation. She had done so countless times before, attempting to rewrite history exactly as she wanted it, with the ultimate goal of removing Raiden and Liu Kang partnership, a partnership that would eventually lead to her plans being ruined. But she required time to do her work and her crown, powered by souls, to create the new era. While she worked, time itself began breaking, and different histories began overlapping. Warriors from the present and past encountered each other randomly, including Kung Lao. His original human self was resurrected from the sands of time, alongside Liu Kang. This Kung Lao was pulled from the Outworld tournament just after his victory over Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, before Shao Kahn had an opportunity to snap his neck. Raiden and his combatants gathered at the Special Forces headquarters while they attempted to figure out what was causing all the disturbances in time, and they learned that Kronika sent her forces to attain some of Earthrealm's Jinsei, underneath the Wuxi Academy. Kung Lao and Liu Kang also discovered their previous fates.
We must help our Shaolin masters.
Why would the Netherrealm want to bust up your alma mater, Liu Kang?
The Dragon Grotto. It's underneath the Academy. Earthrealm's Jinsei energy bubbles up in its springs.
That's no good. We've seen firsthand what happens when the Netherrealm screws with Earthrealm's life force.
They will not reach the grotto. It is protected by powerful magic, the deadliest traps. I am sure our counterparts from your era are already dealing with them.
Kung Lao, Liu Kang, you might want to sit down.
I die in the Colosseum. You on a rooftop fighting Lord Raiden. Our future, Liu Kang. It is insane.
Obsessing over it will not change it.
Neither will accepting our destiny as evil undead warlords.
I'm not. But we can't change a future we don't fully understand. Lord Raiden will guide us.
Can we trust him? It appears he got us both killed.
Kung Lao made his way inside the Shaolin temple filled with dangerous traps, but someone had already been there. Kronika's warriors had arrived just before them. Liu Kang battled Scorpion, while Kung Lao searched for a way to disable the traps inside the temple, and the Revenant of Jade chose to taunt Kung Lao with his own death.
Lord Raiden may make mistakes, but he doesn't murder his followers.
Is it not murder to send an ill-prepared warrior to his death? Raiden's mistake cost your life, Kung Lao.
Can see it. I like the real you better.
Jade and Scorpion retreated from the battle, and Kung Lao and Liu Kang reached their goal, the Dragon Grotto, where Earth's Jinsei energy bubbled to the surface. Kronika's creation Garrus, a being that became stronger with each defeat, was already collecting the samples they needed. Liu Kang demanded he put them back, and they came face to face with the horror of their revenants.
They said you'd come.
Who said?
Who do you think, Kung Lao?
into your future, courtesy of Raiden.
Our future may be tragic, but it's not Lord Raiden's fault. You've both been warped by Shinnok's evil.
Shao Kahn snapped my neck in the arena. Raiden saw it coming and did nothing.
I would have defeated Shao Kahn, but Raiden wanted the glory. His lightning cut me down.
No, I don't believe that.
One day, Raiden will betray you.
The thought of becoming you sickens me, but I won't blame Raiden. You owe Kronika. She saved your life by stopping time.
You shame our family name. Is it me, or could they be telling the truth? Worry about it later. We have bigger problems.
With this power, Kronika will remake history.
That was easy.
am a fixed point in time. With every death and rebirth, I grow stronger.
Liu Kang held off Garrus, and suddenly they were both frozen in time. Kronika arrived to collect her Jinsei samples. For now, the pair would be unharmed. Kronika needed Liu Kang and Kung Lao alive. If their past selves were destroyed, their future selves would cease to exist, and Kronika needed them to keep her fortress protected. After she left, Kung Lao and Liu Kang returned to the Special Forces base and spoke with Raiden about their futures, and even Raiden was surprised by the details of his previous actions. Raiden and the combatants used Hanzo Sashi's Shirai Ryu Fire Gardens as a base of operations, and they separated into different teams to confront various groups of Kronika's allies. Kung Lao traveled with Liu Kang and Kitana to rescue Jade, and convinced Baraka and the Tarkatans to join forces with Kitana. They infiltrated the Tarkatan camp by dressing up as Kotal Khan's Aztec warriors, but Scarlet quickly saw through their disguises. After escaping, they were able to successfully rescue Jade and Kitana, and convince Baraka to form an alliance with her against Shao Kahn.
Did it. Of course she did.
You have united Outworld, Kitana Khan.
She's now officially out of your league.
I am humbled, Kotal.
In his non-canon Mortal Kombat 11 ending, Kung Lao defeated Kronika and inherited control of the Hourglass. He used his newfound power to rewrite the history of the Mortal Kombat tournaments and his own legacy.
Of course I defeated Kronika. And when I did, there was only one thing I wanted to do with the Hourglass. Undo the defeat of my ancestor, the Great Kung Lao. In my timeline, the Great Kung Lao is the undisputed Mortal Kombat champion. Earthrealm never loses another tournament. For generations, his example inspires millions to join the White Lotus Society and defend Earthrealm. They in turn inspire rebels to overthrow Shao Kahn in Outworld. The realms make peace. Until, inevitably, a more powerful enemy comes along and finds Earthrealm backed by Kung Lao, immortal Lord of Time and Warrior Supreme. Beat that, Liu Kang.
In the canon version of events, Kung Lao never confronted Kronika. During the final assault on Kronika's fortress, Kung Lao led the Shaolin monks in battle with Liu Kang, now a fire god.
Incredible.
Now he's out of her league.
With the infiltration of Kronika's fortress, Kronika panicked and reversed the flow of time to keep her enemies away from the hourglass. But Liu Kang was immune to her time powers now. The only Kung Lao remaining in this room was the Revenant that had for so long held a jealousy of Liu Kang, and a deep hatred for Raiden.
Your ego knows no bounds. I did not ask for this. It was thrust upon me. It should have been me, Liu Kang, from the beginning. Thanks to Kronika, it will be.
Still you are alive.
Yes, Kronika.
The Revenant of Kung Lao was promptly defeated. Liu Kang went on to destroy Kronika and her crown before taking control of the hourglass and restoring history. But there was a problem. The crown was needed to use the hourglass. Without it, time itself would shatter with no way to fix it. During the events of the Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath add-on content, Shang Tsung appeared from a void with Fujin and Nightwolf to warn Liu Kang. Although he had his own goals, he was willing to work with Fujin and Nightwolf to retrieve the crown, and so Liu Kang sent the group back into that same timeline before the crown was destroyed. Altering this timeline restored Shao Kahn and led to the events that revived Kitana's mother, Sindel. In this version, an evil queen loyal to Kahn. Changes that Kung Lao would become a victim to.
Nobody is hiding, Shao Kahn. Not after your epic failure at the Colosseum. That belongs to me, Sindel.
Have it.
I hope you have more than that for the heir of the great Kung Lao.
You're a disgrace to your line. Kung Lao, snapping your neck would be too easy for you. Tell me, did your masters teach you to swim?
Kung Lao's final fate saw him sinking into the endless sea of blood for all time. However, Shang Tsung's manipulations ultimately led him into a confrontation with Fire God Liu Kang, and Kung Lao's bloodline would still play an important role in Liu Kang's new era. After he restored the timeline, he set out to prepare the original Great Kung Lao for his destiny.
Kung Lao. Where did you... Who are you? I am Lord Liu Kang, God of Thunder and Fire. God of...
Forgive my disrespect, my lord.
Enough, Kung Lao. You are humble, not like the Kung Lao I knew.
The Kung Lao you knew?
A story for another time. I have chosen you as my champion, Kung Lao.
We have work to do. You must be prepared. Trained.
Trained? For what?
In this new era, will the great Kung Lao still fall in combat, and will his descendant in the future live up to his name, or continue falling short of the glory he deserves?
How is your neck, Kung Lao?
You'll never get your hands around it.
If you'd like to support my work, I invite you to check out my Patreon page and become a patron. There's multiple levels of support to choose from. I'd also like to thank my current patrons and channel members for their continued support. If you enjoyed the video, leave me a like, subscribe, and click the bell for all notifications. Catch you guys later.